the booty deodorant stick is a good idea. Like, I think you could actually market an anti-chafing, anti-odor deodorant stick that is designed specifically to like credit card your butt crack. And you're going to be adding some smell goody. You're going to be limiting down on the sweat chafing factor. And I'm confident that this is a marketable thing. Welcome back to Privy. Privy is a podcast about bathrooms, recorded from my home bathroom. I'm your host, Hunter Hoover, and I love bathrooms. Welcome back, everyone. Thank you for being here, and thank you for joining me once again in my home bathroom. I should note, this is part 2 of our March Madness, Mist Madness, Privycast Tournament of Champions bracket competition extraordinaire. And so if you did not yet listen to part 1 of our bracket competition, I would encourage you to go back and listen to part 1, which came out at the end of February, because we introduce the lineup of our bracket competition. And today, at the formal beginning of March Madness, we are but 5 days into the month of March by the time this episode releases. And so we are going to be looking at our next 2 seeds, seed 3 and seed 4, namely air spray and air freshener. Before diving in, I want to note, and this is a personal opinion that I hold that might bear some of my bias when it comes to our topic this week. But I'm not convinced that the smell of poo is worse than the smell of poo coupled with the smell of anything else. People produce a variety of smells. Toot smells, breath smells, sweat smells, just to name a few. And people have a huge propensity to smell weird and bad. In fact, songs have been written about how much people stank. Dare I say it smells like teen spirit. And so, it stands to reason that as long as humans have been making stink wherever and however they do so, humans have also been concocting ways to cover up that stink. Last time, as we introduced our Mist Madness tournament bracket of bathroom air fresheners, we looked at the bottom 4 seeds of our tournament, namely fans, potpourri, essential oils, and last but definitely not least, odor eliminating powders. Now, at the point of this episode's record, I have already begun sampling a few of these things for myself to really feel out what is my favorite. And at the top of the show, I would encourage you. The link is in the description below, and it is also on our website, Privycast. But I would encourage you now, go and rank your favorite bathroom air fresheners. How do you freshen your big nasty bog after you sog that G? And while you're there, take a screenshot or save the bracket and fill it out. And you can even email your completed brackets to privycast@gmail.com. We'd love to receive those. And, who knows? Maybe there's some sort of an award or some sort of recognition for the winner. We'll put it that way. But yeah, join in, fill out your brackets. It'll be a lot of fun. And as our tournament continues this week, by the time this episode, the voting has begun. And on March 10th, we will be determining the first winner of the bracket. Now, I don't want this to just be like, oh, Hunter's pot. Please go rank this stuff. I want to see your rankings as you help guide this tournament of bathroom air fresheners. Today, as noted, we are going to be discussing Seed 3 and Seed 4, of our tournament by looking at the history and development of air fresheners and bathroom room spray. Both the air freshener and aerosol room spray operate from the same premise. And that premise is, if we hose down the air with more air that smells better than the bad smelling air that we're hosing down, maybe we can mitigate the big stink that we've done. But here's the thing. While nowadays we take these for granted, bathroom air spray and like air freshener, I mean, for goodness sakes. I mean, there we go. Like, we can sog this bog. Ooh, shoot. No, not the wet. Oh, gosh. Well, we're going to try to push through. That's actually really refreshing. What do it taste like? No, I'm not going to eat it, I promise. But nowadays we take this for granted. Like, we have air freshener on hand, and seldom do we walk into a bathroom and somebody, usually the one with the most rank butt, has made sure that there is air freshener available to that one. So much so that we've made these fresheners, air sprays, if you will, be automated. You can set them to go off on a timer, so that way not only does it smell good when you make a stink, but it smells good before you even arrive to do so. These stinks and the aerosolated smells that they are using have a long history of chemistry and other science to thank for their existence. While room stank control began early on, as we noted, by a variety of substances being in the room to improve the smell, whether it's a hot bath with oil or potpourri or what have you. In time, as they figured out which of these things smelled better than others, they would actually just begin to soak that stuff in water to make the water smell like the thing they wanted. As we looked at last time, they would extract the quote unquote oil from a variety of plants for their smell and other medicinal properties, which again may or may not be legit. Like, I don't know how legit the whole medicinal property thing of the whole deal is. Yeah, I'm not sure about that, but what are you going to do? And while these smell good and would be heated for the purpose of making the room smell good in turn, there were other ongoing concerns. Namely, people smell bad, and they do stuff that smells really bad. If you've ever interfaced with a large group of teenagers, you know what I mean. I've smelled a variety of human smells in my life. I used to be a janitor. I work at a public high school. I was a teen, rowdy as we were. And something I've found is there is actually a threshold for how bad a person can smell. Like, what I mean by that is, eventually, in time, people's stank, regulates. It tops out, if you will. They reach the stank threshold. But it should be noted that threshold is different for each person. If you have a low stank threshold, praise be to He. But if you just one of the Walmart employees that I have interacted with frequently, because you have to go to that aisle to check the Pokemon cards, and that person is regularly working that aisle, and that you can just kind of smell them. And that's nothing against them. They just, I think, have a higher threshold for regulated stank. And so, while a lot has been done to get rooms to smell good, besides bathing, there was a desire to figure out, how do we take that room smell goody with us on the road? At first, there were these different smell goody substances. These would be smeared, daubed, or wiped in what I have called the stank zones of your body, your cracks, your crevasses, pits. And everybody knows that I'm already on record that the booty deodorant stick is a good idea. Like, I think you could actually market an anti-chafing, anti-odor deodorant stick that is designed specifically to like credit card your butt crack. And you're going to be adding some smell goody. You're going to be limiting down on the sweat chafing factor. And I'm confident that this is a marketable thing. Like, TM, TM, TM. But at the time, they're daubing, smearing, and wiping. It was an era of smelling good. Nowadays, we know these things under the subject of perfume. But the word perfume means through smoke and comes from ancient times where civilizations burned good-smelling things in order to make contact or communicate with the divine. Now, nowadays, they're less concerned with contacting the divine and more just not smelling like death. But as we said, it was smeared, daubed, or wiped onto the user. But as time went on, they realized that there needed to be a better way. Before the 1800s, perfume, or smell goody, as I like to call it, was applied by rubbing it on your fingers and applying it with a glass rod sprinkled or through a cloth that was allowed to absorb it. The idea of a spray was not a thing. There were things in nature which sprayed, geysers, my face during allergy season. But making this smell good juice into a spray was a thing that had yet to be developed. Science, coming out of the 1700s, had figured out that a fluid actually speeds up when it is forced through a narrowing pipe. That's why when Hank Hill blasts off, if you will, it's potent because he's got that narrow, anyway. But when it is forced through a narrowing pipe, it is something called the Venturi effect, and it later became known as Bernoulli's principle. That is, that the same amount of liquid forced through a ever-narrowing pipe increases the pressure. From there, the question of where the atomizer comes from is really a question with many answers, depending on who you ask. Like, can you force the liquid through the ever-narrowing tube so fast and through such a narrow thing that it actually vaporizes on its way out? Early mentions of this atomization using liquids to produce fine spray come from John Anthelm Brilla Savarin. Yeah, definitely butchered that name. Sorry, Mr. Brilla Savarin. He was working in the early 1800s, and in the early 80s, inventors developed methods for spraying a liquid so that it was more like a gas, or perhaps like a liquefied gas. This, however, was primarily for medical use. One key person in this development was Emile Baudouin, who developed a spray apparatus for throat treatment. Sore throat, you just like that. And this would be a sprayer and would not be looked at as a true atomizer, but it used a lot of the similar principles. In the late 1800s, Dr. Alan de Vilbis out of Ohio patented a design to administer antiseptic to the throats of his patients via a spray. He formed the de Vilbis Company in 1890, which mass-produced medical vaporizers and is responsible for bringing that technology to bear on the world of smell goody. Perfume, if you will. Perfume atomizers, known as perfumizers, had rubber bulbs, if you will, at the top where they were squeezed as a means for moving and forcing the liquid out as atomized air. This transition into these elegant design bottles with these rubber squishy balls that would the smell goody through, and the beauty and perfume industry began to be headed off by Alan's son, Dr. Alan de Vilbis, his son, Tom, presumably de Vilbis. Turns out, people would pay a high dollar for these perfumizers, atomized perfume machines. And so they began to work on ever more elegant and glamorous bulbs. Look at them glamorous bulbs. I want to squeeze them. No. And so perfume and atomizing liquids lived in this form for the next 20 to 30 years. You squeeze the bulb, kind of like a flower and skunk butt chicken blaster. You're basting your perfume. I got a perfume baster ready to fire, baby, to force the smell goody through the tube and spray it out the end. That's what she said. But the next jump in this atomizing and vaporizing technology came not from medicine, but from war. Coming out of World War I, soldiers who came back from war in France popularized the spray mechanism of these vaporizing or water vaporing maneuvers. While a lot of them remained a similar idea, like what if you wanted to remove the long tube or bulb, you would still need a way to force the air through a small opening to atomize or aerosolize the liquid inside. 1927, a Norwegian engineer patented the first aerosol can and valve system, and later agriculture scientists in the United States pressurized these mechanisms in something that was called a bug bomb. These bug bombs brought together life-saving medical need with the world of spray. The military employed this technology largely first in the bug bombs and aerosol bug repellent to save soldiers in World Wars I and II from the malaria-carrying insects that were part of where they were stationed to fight. When those soldiers came back from war, the ease at which they could dispense the bug spray, soldiers began to speak and even self-engineer their own bug bombs. And if you've ever spent a hot July night swatting mosquitoes, you're going to be thankful that these military tinkerers didn't settle for the old ways. They came back and they said, shoot, when we were at war, we had these things called a bug bomb, and it dealt with it, baby. What resulted was none other than bug spray. And if you can aerosol bug killer, why couldn't you aerosolize other liquids? In 1947, the commercial aerosol industry boomed with products such as paint and hairspray. And one of these products growing in popularity at the time was perfume. And as it went from perfuming yourself to perfume, TM, to perfuming a space, air freshener was the result. I said perfume earlier, and I think I need to flesh out what that product is. In my brain, perfume is you spray it so that way every time you go to the bathroom, it smells a little bit like poo, but it masks the true odor so nobody can pin down what your poo smells like. So if every time somebody goes to the bathroom, they smell perfume, it doesn't just smell like, oops, I covered my fart stink with, what the frig is this over here? What is this? With tropical blend island pineapple sweet cream refreshing water Like, now it just smells like diarrhea and pineapple. And like, pineapple's great on pizza. I'm not as big of a fan just raw dogged pineapple. But like, I don't want pineapple fart smell. And that's what it does, in my opinion. One source suggests that the company Circo were the first to develop these aerosolized air freshener products under the brand Air Scent. By the 1950s, aerosoled air freshener was commonplace. If you were using air freshener, it came in an aerosolized can. What was once bug killer now was employed to kill our stank. Next time you hear some teen in PE hosing their reek down with Axe body spray, you got to remember it started as bug killer. Like, and there's some poetry in that. You know what I mean? Like, to acknowledge that what was once bug killer is now like being employed by teens to help them smell better. It's like, it's still bug killer, brother. Like, I guarantee you, if I hose a roach or a spider or some other little croupity crawly with some Axe body spray, it's not going to do well. Air freshener sprays further boomed with market demand. This, in turn, led to the development and production of room sprays, automated room sprays. See, you just plug that cartridge right into your room spray device, and it continues to produce the smell of your choice over the course of the day. In time, it was modeled with this constant flow of smell goody. And I want to know, while you can really target things with the aerosolized air freshener, the constant flow of smell goody might be onto something. Like if we laid down a psychological blanket of smell goody, maybe, just maybe, we can trick ourselves into not smelling the bad stink as much when we do the big bad. It should be noted that in modern days, there has been some shying away, thus further development of other technologies to try and remove the, quote, environmental factors that aerosols produce. Oh well. And here's the deal. People worried about the ozone layer. Don't tell me not to hose down my bathroom stank if you aren't willing to walk everywhere and ride your bike. Like, if you drive a car, or if you have ever had a campfire, or if you've ever engaged in pretty much any activity that uses power, shut up about my air freshener. Because my air freshener, Febreze Luxe Air Tropical Blend Island Pineapple Sweet Cream and Refreshing Waters, it ain't doing more than what you got going on. Don't tell me that. It's just selfish. While this concludes our coverage of air fresheners and bathroom air sprays, it does not yet conclude our episode, because it's time for Hunter's Anecdotes to keep you afloat. This Hunter's Anecdotes is called Air Freshener Warfare. As I was putting this episode together and I was talking about some of the wartime background for some of our air freshener technology, I was reminded of some of the just ridiculous shenanigans that my friends and I would do in Montana with pretty much Axe body spray, sometimes Old Spice body spray, but Axe body spray was cheaper at the time and it was more stereotypical. One of the antics that we would get up to that was particularly stupid, I acknowledge this now, and I will also say I never engaged in it, I just watched other people engage in it, was the classic flamethrower, and It does work, but you have to be careful. Like, you got to more like do the spurt, like, because if you do the constant stream, it's going to chase that stream and explode the can. Don't want that. Bad news. However, this slowly evolved into an even worse idea amongst teenage boys, namely what I like to call aerosol deodorant skin. Because for a while, there was this fun that we'd do where we'd get our hand and we would just hose it down with Axe body spray, like to where it would almost be dripping. And then we would light it on fire. And it would burn, and then you would start to feel it get hot, and you could like shake it off or like slough it off like that. And it was a cool party trick. It was one of those classic like campfire tricks that people are sitting around and they're like, oh yeah, watch, I'm going to light my hand on fire. And they hose it down, light it, and it was a good gag. And the other thing that always happened was the aerosolized deodorant. I guess you could do it with room spray too, but it's particularly potent with deodorant is we would actually like make like grenades out of these things, not like explosive grenades, but I mean like we would take them. And I remember one time we were on this youth trip, and it was like a 2-day trip, and the guys roomed in one room, the girls roomed in another room. And one of the things that we did to trigger the girls, because what are teenage boys going to do other than try to trigger the teenage girls, is we would take like 2 or 3 cans of Axe body spray, and we would tape them together, and then we would just like get electrical tape, and we would hold down the spray mechanism, and we'd tape it down and just throw it in the girls' room, and it just fumigates the room. We got in big trouble for that one. I do not recommend it unless, of course, you want a huge rise out of a large room of people. This one also works really great in a tent. Like if you're camping with friends and you want to screw with your friends, just like in the dark, zoink, because it's dark out there and it takes them forever to find a light. It's going to take them forever to figure out where this aerosolized, just new cloud of lovely stank that has entered their nostrils is coming from. So there's a variety of, and I'm pretty sure at some point we just threw the aerosolized can straight into the fire, and sometimes it would explode, sometimes it wouldn't. Yeah. Good and silly times that we would get up to in Montana in those backwoods. This has been Hunter's Anecdotes to keep you afloat. I acknowledge that Hunter's Anecdotes was really just supplying teens with deviant behavior that will definitely get them in trouble. Teens, wayward teens, if you're listening to this, don't do what I've described. This is a thing for times past. You're better than that. You don't need fire and petty pranks to have fun. You guys have like the internet and stuff that you can go do. We didn't have that stuff. We had to entertain ourselves. You guys got like Netflix and things like that. It's mellowed you out. Maybe for the better? I don't know. Probably not. This brings us to the end of another episode of Privy. Thank you so much for being here. I would encourage you, go check out the website, privy-cast.com. At the website, on the top, we have a store button. It takes you to privy-cast.com/store. And there we have some Privycast logo merch. The Privycast logo that you've come to know and love. You can have a t-shirt, a mug, a sweatshirt, and we're working on other, like, it's the launch of the Privycast logo merch. So go get yourself some Privycast merch. We would love to see you repping that. Use hashtag #PrivyMerch, or just tag us at Privycast on social media. And thank you for supporting the show. You doing so allows us to support the things that we want to support via this show. And one of those things is Wounded Warriors International and Living Water. Every time you leave a rating or review, go do that in your Apple podcast catcher or Spotify podcast. You can leave a rating or review. 5-star options are preferred. And when you do that, A, it helps people find the show. But B, we will donate $1 to Wounded Warriors and Living Water International as a reminder to keep pooping in the free world. That free world was not always free. And in pursuit for cleaner water for all. Not everybody has it, but everybody should. Follow us on social media at Privycast. Send us an email, privycast@gmail.com. You can follow me. I'm at Owlet7. Go check out the stuff that we've got going online. Join up the Facebook group, the Privies. That name is going to be changing soon. Stay tuned. I think we've got something in store there. This has been another episode of Privy. Fill out your missed madness brackets. Keep pooping in the free world. Own your stank. Deodorize your bathroom the way you like. And now, as always, don't forget to flush.